Ekonene. So the biggest newspapers hapa Kenya leo zilikuwa na very interesting headlines. Kulikuwa na The Standard ilikuwa ni thug bosses. Then ikaendelea when police marched side by side with rungu wielding goons on Nairobi streets who were coming from Governor Sakaja City Hall office, some wearing county t-shirts. The line between law enforcer and lawbreaker blurred to nothing. The so-called crackdown on protest morphed into a coordinated rampage. Looting, assault and destruction ran unchecked. Innocent wananchi bore the brunt as thugs beat them and vandalized property, all while Sakaja clung to the hollow protect businesses mantra. IG Kanja remains conspicuously silent, failing to condemn officers who protected the goons. So hiyo ilikuwa ni The Standard. Alafu kuna hasa inaitwa Daily Nation, ilikuwa ni how chaos was planned in the city. Alafu ikakuwa goons for hire. Plans to disrupt Tuesday protest in Nairobi started as early as last Thursday, with fresh details of the recruitment and facilitation of goons to take on mostly youthful and peaceful demonstrators emerging. Yes, alafu ikaendelea the criminals' unholy alliance with anti-riot officers in their reign of terror on the streets was also a clear manifestation of blessings from above. Yes, si uchawi ni maombi. Of course kwa history yote what's being said in very many words ni umsana itwa Sakaja alikuwa involved kwa history ya kufacilitate magoons wabaki wametokea. Jana alibaki wametokea with that useless statement of his, of course claiming that he was not involved. But this is the country that we live in. We live in a country where the governor of Kenya's most important city can end up hiring goons to beat up Nairobi residents, and everything continues. Like kila kitu ni sawa. He's not summoned by the Senate. He's not summoned by parliament. He's not summoned by the police. Everything ni hivi. Why? Because it's rumored that this guy pays. So inasemekanaga he come to the opposition, kuna kuwaga na 200 million endaga kwa opposition every month. Oppositions unajua who I mean. Alafu so now try and imagine how much goes to the president. Because don't forget, to these people, Kenya is a business. They don't care about me and you. And the minute that you realize that is the minute that wengine wenyu wataacha yu jinga ya ati jana niko na cheki ati Maraga yuko on air alafu mafala ako he's uninspiring. Why are you trying to get inspired? If corruption and bad governance can't inspire you, unataka ati Maraga kuja kuimbia tunakuwa na ujinga. Na the reason tuko na ujinga ni itafanya kuendelea kama nchi itakuwa ngumu sana. We are so used to drama. We are so used to thuggery. We are so used to Nini that if a president is just calm, someone is calm, anakuambia tu we will follow the law. No one will be above the law, not even me. Uko mtu ani-inspire. Alafu the next minute Ruto must go. You can't have it both ways. You either want to move away from the old style of politics or you want to stay with the old style of politics. And when it comes to moving away, even Maraga versus Matiangi, it's not even a debate. Matiangi bado extrajudicial killings will continue. I don't know vile kama msa alikuwa na facilitate Rivayala, what makes you think now when he becomes president is going to stop that? So we need to stop this nonsense. We have to start looking at leaders who are actually going to bring change. We have the numbers. If me and you decide that our preferred candidate ni Maraga ama Omtata, we have the numbers. But if me and you decide that unajua Maraga anaga nini, kuna mpaka mse ameenda aka bring up scandal ya Maraga, sijui Maraga alikuwa amepatia ball dame flani ball alafu nini, stories za ngono as long as si stories za kumlawiti. Unajua acha nitumie hiyo jina kwa zile nyingine muitumiaga sana. Then hakuna kitu hapa, ni hizo ni child support, tunaweza fanya stories za DNA test baadaye. Sasa tunabonga juu ya running a country and we're talking about corruption scandals. But now let's go back to umse anaitwa Sakaja. And history ya Sakaja ni scary because leo nilikuwa nasikiza Dennis Okari na alikuwa Spice FM and he said something that of course I'm not surprised. Mnajua from day one, mnajuaga tu. Mimi kama Afrika mnanijuaga. From day one I've never fallen for this nonsense. Najuaga. Nimekuwa nikiwaambia mtu wa Teams University is not the right guy for Nairobi. So this is not something that I'm going to msela neza sema that nime change all of a sudden. I've been saying this. So wacha tucheki kile nani alisema. And hiki tu Dennis Okari alisema the fact that huyu msee bado hajakuwa summoned by the police means that we live in a lawless country. And the worst thing about a lawless country is one day the lawless country stops pretending that it's not a lawless country. You see, right now tuna pretend. Unajua kila mtu anaamka, wewe mi na wewe tunafuata sheria, alafu kuna wale watu hawafuati sheria. Wale they can do whatever they want to do. They can hire goons, they can beat up people, but it gets worse. Don't forget, if a man is beaten up, as long as hajadedishwa haikuagi headlines. But what happens if it's a woman? Wacha tusikie.
I mean the protests, Tuesday's protests, and including future protests. My source told me the plan was there are groups that had been identified, and each group had a role and tools that they were going to use in these protests. But what was the most scariest thing I heard is the plan was try and stab a few women in town, because the effect of stabbing a man is different from the effect of stabbing a woman. So you'll draw public outrage. When now the calls are, see what these protests are doing to our women, to our mothers on the streets. So blame it on the protesters that, look, there are criminal outfits that have infiltrated these protests, and therefore the more reason to ban them. And so the plan,
Macheki, so your governor in his infinite wisdom alikaa chini na magoons wake, alafu akakama up na plan that just beating up men on Nairobi streets was not going to be enough. Even hurting them was not going to be enough. Lakini wakiumiza madem, they can turn around and say that the protesters did that. You remember the protesters were walking around mostly with water, a mask, and Kenyan flag. And then you had the goons walking around with hizo weapons, protected by the police, wanapelekwa every area that they could go. So this was the plan. And right now, if you ask me how many Nairobians are angry, it's going to be that one guy. You know that one guy who can't stand this bullshit? Itakuwa tu ni mimi peke yangu. Like us wengine wote wako like, ni sawa. Yeah. Si alidu kila nafaa kudu. This is a criminal. You can't have a criminal. Like, it's one thing stealing and robbing Nairobi clean. It's one thing kufanya hivyo. But now to decide that, say nishawaibia, but apart from kuwaibia, I'm going to hurt them physically. Like, udem, msanafaa kudungana. Atajuaje udem atadedi? Alikuwa nafaa kujuaje? Like, nikimdunga kidogo, atadedi, nikimdunga sana. Like, alikuwa nafaa kujuaje? And tunaallow hizi vitu kuhappen. Like, tunaallow lawlessness. Mpaka saa hizi, sijasikia mtu yote akisema Sakaja must go. You can have two fights at the same time. You can have Ruto must go and have Sakaja must go. It can't just be about one person. This is bigger. This is a whole system. And the whole system involves a lot of old school politicians. So ile time say like, wacha Ruto atoke Matiang'i inge. It's going to be the same nonsense of violence. Using violence and intimidation. And the only way ni jana may have a very calm person ametokea. Akasema, hatuwezi endelea na this ethnic politics. It does not help us. Ile time Sudi anatembea around na bag ya Balmain. A Balmain bag goes for around maybe $2,000. You want to tell me there's no Kalenjin sleeping hungry? Ask yourself that. Ile time tunasikia that every time Raila make peace anapatiwa kwa billions. Ni wajaka wangapi wana sleep hungry? Wajaka ni wengi wana sleep hungry. Then tuangalie all the leadership that has come from Masai za Kikuyu. Are there poor Kikuyus? Yes, they exist. What does that tell you? Tribal politics does not work. We need to get that through our heads. And to get evil, we need to know that all these old school politicians with all that old school thinking need to step aside. We need to come to a certain level of, we are Kenyans, and this is a country run by law. This is a country that does not care if you're a governor. Saizi as we talk, kuna president, I think former president wa South Korea, yule yuko prison. Alafu kuna mwingine pia I think alikuwa charged. Mwingine alitry ku bring martial law, alikuwa charged. That's how it's supposed to be. Sisi, a mayor governor with even fake certificates, like even if you can't tie him to the goons, at least do some research and arrest him based on the fake certificate from Tim's University. Let's do something. Let's save Nairobi. Nairobi lazima iwork. So you don't nonsense ilikuwa inafaa kuhappen. And of course saizi, one of the most beautiful things that happened is Kenyans stepped up and a lot of our magoons walikuwa disciplined, najua, and that helped, and we are hoping that going forward that level of discipline itafanya mafala wajue that 200 shillings ile unapatiwa na Sakaja, a billionaire. Okay, kuna fala alikuwa nasema walilipwa pesa ngapi? 2000 shillings. 2000 shillings, alafu unajipata katikati ya Nairobi, unapigwa kama burukenge, inakusaidia na nini? The money that you are going to use in the hospital is more than the 2000 shillings you've been given by a billionaire with no company, who has never discovered anything. The only thing he's ever done is run a county. So go figure. Okay. Tukitoka kwa hiyo story, hata tuende kwa the next mafala. So kuna hizi mafala mbili zile zilikuwa involved kwa protest. By that time ziko nafikiri hizo ni makarao and zinaweza fanya ile kitu yote zinataka. So nakumbuka kuna video nilifanya na kina Rapture na nilikuwa nasema mse mmoja anaitwa Kiprono hafai kuwa niniwa, but then people, mimi najua nakuwa ready to be corrected. Niko na mse alikuwa hapo busy akipiga huo protester makofi. So since alikuwa anampiga makofi, what does that mean? That means that he also broke the law, and that means he was also being violent. So now leo soka baki wamefikishwa kotini, and what pissed me off is kome koki unanijuaga tu, like from day one waga nimekata history ya criminals kuingia kwa koti kama wamejifunika. Like unaingia aje kwa koti kama umejifunika? Now we don't know who you are, and you're a criminal who just like attempted to kill an innocent Kenyan. And hizi koti zinakuacha utembea around na mask. So nilibaki nimecheki a few comments zile waswali walitoa. Of course kulikuwa na the video. So with the video itself nachikia mafala wawili wamekaa, mmoja amevaa jacket ya blue, mwingine amevaa jacket shine. Hii jacket shine I think ni ile fala ilibaki imepiga risasi, ni hiyo Klinzy Barasa. Unajuaga stories zangu na stories za Barasa. Let's just drop the Klinzy, call it Lam. So kuna ira inaitwa Lam Barasa, ilibaki imetokea kama imejifunika pia umse mwingine. But sasa at least one thing that has made me happy is I'm not the only one complaining about masks. And ubaki umecheki like old Nini episodes, I always complain about that. It's not supposed to be that way. If you're a criminal, we are supposed to be able to see you, and you're supposed to stand by your criminality. So nilibaki nimecheki buda anaitwa nani? Buda anaitwa Willis alikuwa ameandika the irony is chilling. Why are they allowed to appear in court masked? A uniformed officer who wanted to execute a young man selling masks is now being protected by the very item his victim was selling to survive. Don't forget, these masks, it's not like they give you a lot of profit. So kipata mse kama Boniface Kariuki, like what he was doing was literally trying to survive. Because there's that very big difference. Nakumbukaga kuna kwa na line moja ya Jay-Z, I ain't trying to survive, I'm trying to live and love it a lot. And a lot of us don't live, we survive. And Boniface Kariuki alikuwa na survive. Ufala kama kumpiga risasi. So kulikuwa na hiyo. Nikacheki Cyprian alikuwa ameandika they don't even have the courage to show their faces. And I don't even think this is about courage. This is about the courts being a circus. You're a judge. Kuna mtu amejifunika hivi mbele yako. Do you even know who has come there? How are we supposed to know it's Klinzy? We can't know. This is the same sort of masks he was wearing ile time alikuwa anaenda kushoot watu huko. Alafu amealauiwa kuvaa hii. So kulikuwa na hiyo, but the only good news was ilikuwa ni Boniface Kariuki shooting, ilikuwa kwa Daily Nation. Then kwa police officers Klinzy Barasa and Duncan Kiprono to be detained for 15 days to allow IPOA to probe into incident. Then another IPOA headline of course that came out was the headline that IPOA imebaki imesummon DIG Lagat. It's still a circus of course, because I don't think there's anything that's going to happen to Lagat. I feel like it's too important for 2027. So any part moja ile na disagree na Brian Obuya, but I'm really hoping that Brian Obuya will be right and Prophet Habakkuk will be wrong. Really hoping that that's what's going to happen. But if you're to ask me, I don't think it will happen here Lagat. They're somehow going to make sure that ametokea hapo akiwa clean. But of course we'll keep making noise. Nilibaki nimecheki buda anaitwa Otiende Amolo alikuwa parliament akizusha hiyo story. And yes, it is what it is. And now of course ikamtoa Makarao. Now Makarao kushutwa say. Of course, like when we're thinking about the cops and what they were doing on Monday, on Tuesday that is, we have to think about the police element and the fact that the police were being used as security for goons. This is in a country that's supposed to be a functioning country. And I think msemoja ule, I don't take him seriously, especially after kuona ile architecture iko kwa nyumba yake. Unajua, mse at least at some point alikuwa na open air toilet katikati ya bedroom somewhere in Karen. Shamba itakuwa. But kuna kitu moja ile alisema, ile ilikuwa interesting sana. Alisema anyone investing in violent gangs should be warned you're toying with a typhoon that will consume many, you included. Whole states have collapsed riding the virulent beasts of sponsored gangs. It is no longer about political sides, it's about the soul of Kenya. It behooves us all to save the motherland from sliding into jungle rule, mobocracy and anarchy. Damn, mobocracy. Sana bonga juu yake ni Ababu na Mwamba. Of course, this goes back to the point that right now, it's an open secret that it's Sakaja who paid goons. This is on the Nation newspaper, it's on the Standard newspaper, and what's happening? He's not been arrested. What stops him from June 25th? One of the biggest protests, it's going to happen on June 25th. What's going to stop him from organizing his gangs? Because anajua he's protected. And on June 25th, tukifikiria juu yake, of course tushasema ni public holiday, but mafala wamekuwa kijitetea that we have to tell them we are coming to protest so that they provide us with security. Of course, they provided security with the goons who are protesting. So kuna vile leo kulikuwa na this letter that was going round, and the letter was written to the officer commanding police division, Central Police Station, Nairobi. Then ikakuwa, dear sir, notice of assembly and march to commemorate our children who died in peaceful demonstrations in June 2024. Then ikaendelea, we Gillian Munyao, Mama Rex Masai, Caroline Mutisia, Mama Erickson Chalo, Jocinta Ochieng, Mama Kennedy Onyango, Phoebe Maina, Mama Kelvin Odhiambo Maina, and Joseph Mwadime, brother to Kelvin Mwamasi, on behalf of families of victims of killings during the 2024 Gen Z protests, hereby wish to notify the police of a peaceful assembly and march to commemorate our children who died as aforementioned. Our children were exercising their constitutional right to protest and deliver petitions to public officers to challenge poor governance. I think this is what we keep forgetting. The fight that we have right now is a fight of poor governance. And if we want to win this fight, we have to be ready to reset the whole system. And this is the reason why kuna wasojam na mimi nikidismiss history ya Matiang'i. And juka saa hizi, like even if you have to look at it from a tribal lens, you have Maraga and you have Matiang'i. The choice is one. Let's not lie to ourselves. This is about poor governance. Uhuru used to show up mbele yetu, anatuambia 2 billion is stolen daily. Mnataka nifanye. Saa hiyo, that translates to 732 billion per year. 732 billion per year is enough to do so much in this country. But we'd rather let that money go into the hands of individuals, especially if those individuals know how to do this. Then uzajidanganya uko zile. So I was quite surprised when that individual anza kutumia diglo. Muna diglo? Utacheki, ataanza kutumia hivyo. Alafu as soon as ameitumia sasa kwa yeye. Msana feel story yetu. Unajua hiyo drive Lexus, najua yeye ni billionaire, lakini jo bila alitumia diglo. Amika youth man, jo nilifurahi. Afi irungu inaweza nisaidia, naweza katuna yako kwa keja mwizi akiingia na mkongoria nayo, si ndio jo buda. Ngumi ni mbwekse. Mimi ni youth man. Kwa how old? I turn 35 next month, but mi ni youth man, Buddha, mi ni youth man. Unajua si kama youth, we are the leaders of tomorrow. Okay, Sakaja iko how old? Ama alikuwa amekuwa kwa politics akuwe how old? Alikuwa 27. Ulisikiaga kitwa youth man akiwa chairman wa TNA? But mi ni youth man, Buddha. Ngumi ni mbwekse. Umediglo. Okay. Sasa tutoke kwa nonsense. Cha tuende kwa adults. So kwa ile ta tukimalizia kwa ile ta kuna vile liendelea, we'd like to notify you that on Wednesday, June 25th from 10 a.m. we have invited Kenyans to proceed for a peaceful assembly and march together with mothers, fathers, siblings, relatives as we lay flowers in their memory along Kenyatta Avenue, Place ya Rex Masai, Mama Ngina Street, Moi Avenue, Harambe Avenue and Parliament Road. Hapa sijui nani alininiwa Parliament Road nafaa kuwa David, sijuona David hapa. Pia Erickson Chalo, I think that was on Parliament Road, ilikuwa on June 25th. Alafu ikaendelea to deliver a petition to the office of the president and the Kenyan parliament to demand justice and compensation for innocent protesters who died as aforementioned. We also undertake to deliver copies of this intention to the relevant police stations and authorities as our legal duty mandates us. The relevant contact person for this purpose is Miss Janja Maina, advocate, who is reachable via telephone blah blah blah. Alafu of course wakabaki quote article 37. So do I expect Ruto to let this happen? I don't expect Ruto to let this happen, because this is the truth. If they allow us, because they have to allow us, don't forget, we don't live in a country of laws. That's why we have a criminal who organized for watu wa Nairobi wadungwe kisu lakini bado yuko ofisini. So hatuishi kwa nchi ya laws. So wakitu allow tutajatao, and the numbers will say one term without saying one term. Tutajatao design hautanili kusema one term, tuona tu imejiandika, the writing is on the wall. Na si one term juu ya like we too big, ni one term juu ya just people who have very fragile egos. You have a president who, instead of logging off, can't log off. They'd rather go for people who've tweeted something. That's why Kibet Bull alikuwa kidnapped. Alafu tutoke hapo, you have a DIG who the same thing, just couldn't log off, and that ended up with the death of Albert Ojwang. Then you had a cop, Klinzy Barasa, who couldn't log off, really wanted to be a star and really wanted to go viral. So he became a TikTok star and decided ni time ya kupiga mtu risasi, mtu innocent. Just these people just can't stay away from their phones, and this is the situation where we are left TV, where now because of that a little criticism is met with violence, a lot of violence, and Kenya ends up being this country that we can't recognize. It's a country that we are there like, Buddha, hii ni Kenya kweli? I don't know, man. Me, this is the country I've always known, and this is the reason why I feel like for Kenya to be the Kenya that we want, we need to move away from this political class. Anyone telling you about your tribe, you need to move away from them. You need to know that reality. Billions za Ruto are not for you. Najua maybe unaweza kuwa ni mkale unafikia hii ni doa yako. Hii ni doa ya Charlene, hii ni doa ya June, hii ni doa ya George, hii ni doa ya Nick. Hii si doa yako. Doa ya Uhuru Kenyatta si doa yako kama Msapere. Hiyo ni doa ya Ngina na uboy mwingine sijui anaitagwa nani hicho. Hiyo sasa, that's how much Uhuru ameficha watu wake mpaka tujuage majina. Doa ya Raila ni doa ya kina Raila Junior na doa ya kina Winnie. Si doa ya Wajaluo. Tuwatage ujinga tu. It's time to move away from hii politics. When the Ruaraka land scam happened, there's no Kisi that benefited apart from Matiang'i. But ikikam to ngono, ile inasemekana Maraga alihave, of course Maraga alienjoy hiyo ngono, but hiyo ngono haikuwa na public resources. Alafu wode mwenyewe kusema ati alinajisiwa, ilikuwa ni walitenda kitendo, alafu budaka kataa mtoi. So kitu kuna fako hapa na hapo, hiyo ni historia hata haifai kutuhusu. Hiyo ni ngono na si ngono ya kulazimishwa. So tuko kwa hii situation ile tuna need kufikiria, do we want to reset this country? Like, we are enough of us out there there's nothing like, I think kuna msali kwa mepost hiyo story, there's nothing like a wasted vote. You yourself do decide, is it a wasted vote or not? You're the one to decide that what sort of leadership do you want? Do you want people who use public resources as their personal money? Like unajuaga, every time hao mafala wanakuja, wanakupatia ile 2 million kwa church. Haitoki kwa mfuko yao. Ingekuwa inatoka kwa mfuko yao, they'd have, ungekuwa natumia pesa ya gava could do vitu very big. Because try to imagine, if the president can donate 2 million to a church, and the president is running budget ya trillions, why can't we see any change in Sugoi? Why can't we see any change anywhere? So hii pesa ni pesa yetu. So sekile ufanyaga ni they steal billions and they spend around 10 million on you. Then uko hapa nje losing your shit. Tribe yetu, you're targeting our tribe. No one is targeting your tribe. In nonsense your tribe tulidanganywa nayo. And it worked for some time. But it's time to reset. We can't be the same thing that mother zetu walikuwa, ma grandmother zetu walikuwa. Like everything comes to an end. This is the reason mupendaga sana stories za science. Na kuna boy flani aliniandikia akasema yeye ni astrophysicist. Usijali, I'll reach out to you. One of the most beautiful things inakuwaga ni everything in nature dies. Even stars die. And here another thing ni science itaku teach that ghosts are real, because most stars si wanaga apparently ni light from stars that died millions of years ago. So that's basically their ghosts, because this is when the light is reaching Earth. But now ghosts for human ni legacy. Which legacy will you leave behind? Do you want to leave the legacy of you are educated, but still as an educated person, you defended tribalism so much that we ended up defending mediocrity? Niliendaga chuo ilikuwa na all tribes. I can comfortably tell you that I went to school with so many Kalenjins that Oscar Sudi should not be anywhere near parliament. I went to school with so many Luos that the late Omondo Were should have never been anywhere next to Nini, parliament. Went to school so many Kikuyus, baba yao, Waititu, Wamatangi. These were motherfuckers should not be anywhere. But to decide to come waniaje, let's leave politics to thugs. And then when the thugs steal, tuko hapo tumeshtuka, sikisi amini ameniibia. Umse iko na death certificate, ule anatakikana na Interpol, si amini ameniibia. Tukuage serious jo. So tutakuwa stuck in hii situation mpaka ile time tutakubali tuko na ujinga. Na ujinga tuko nayo ndio imekaa mikafanya even the educated and uneducated reason the same. Like even saa hizi kuna wajaka educated wale ukiwa mgeni aje buda na ule buda wa 2007 na buda not the same person. See, you're trying to sound like a cool Luo. Baba knows. If Baba is telling us this guy is there, kwenda huko. Tuache hizi story. And nimetry break it down. Shown you all these tribes and shown you it does not mean anything for you on a personal level. So we have to make the decision. What do we want? Do we want change or we don't want change? But still, nikimalizia story, wacha nicheki. Kuna umse alitokea ati alikuwa short kwa shingo and ikabaki nini inasemekana ni student wa this place, what is called Kenyatta University. Alafu iraya baadaye kuna picha wasali kwa na post. So kuna picha wasali post ya iraya imeandikwa Kanyaluo Ward, Philip Okech, Kanyaluo 1 2027. Karibu Homa Bay Care. His Excellency Dr. William Ruto. Hii ni iraya inaitwa Philip Okech. Alafu still kuna picha za iraya ikiwa na Charlene Ruto. So iraya ilikuwa kwa hosi. Ikiclaim ilipigwa risasi ya shingo. I don't know how true that is. But inaanza kukaa mchezo wa town. Because I don't know like what's the probability, yeah, iraya cause pia ilipigwa shingo alafu haikuwa critical, ilikuwa ile nini, ilikuwa ni zile za like ikagreziwa, so unajua kwa ni zile za umejipeleka hosi. So I don't know what's happening ikikam to your story, but lazima tujue hii country si ndo try change the educated few amongst us, and those educated few have to teach one. Kulikuwa na hii phrase niko napenda sana from 90s hip hop. This was before mlete Lean na kina Lil Wayne rise go high full time. Ilikuwa gani each one teach one. So each one teach one ilikuwa ni kila mtu afundishe mtu. So fundisha madhako. Kaa chini na madhako na utry kumconvince. Unajua nini hicho? Kama nitakaa chini na madha niko unajua Raila alikuwa anatupigania lakini sasa hivi Raila anajipigania. Ule Raila alikuwa anapenda human rights. It's not the same one with this one today. Huyu bana. Ushaona kitu funny like I think today was the first day ile nimecheki a Luo MP who's condemned kitu ile happen here like Albert Ojwang. Oh shit, talking of that like damn poleni jo. Nashinda nikikumbuka story hii video ziko nafikita kwa refu hivi. Nimekumbuka story nyingine. Umadha anaitwa Gladys Wanga alikuwa amerelease statement jana and in that statement she was condemning extrajudicial killings that have been happening. Alafu it seems she was forced to delete it. Yes, and that's the reason why I'm telling you this Raila of right now is not the same Raila. Can you see me? Can you see me? Okay, let's read the statement. So umadha alirelease statement. Unajua go umadha views zangu ni yeye. Uni madha kuna like a friend of the show alikuwa anatuambia vile alimwona New York akifanya shopping ile ijuani. So usi ati ni madha fulani ule na hold in high regard, but a broken clock is right twice a day. So she'd written this ilikuwa ni jana. Ilikuwa for immediate release. Statement by Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga on extrajudicial killings. Then akasema today we stand unified in grief and outrage as our nation confronts a wave of police brutality, impunity and extrajudicial killings. The tragic killing of our son Albert Ojwang in police custody has shaken our collective national conscience. Yet as I mourn Albert, another family in Mbeta is shattered by the death of Calvins Omondi Onditi, a 36-year-old fisherman who allegedly hanged himself with his trousers at Kipasi Police Post Mbeta. The post-mortem at Homa Bay County Referral Hospital will reveal the truth. Yesterday in Nairobi, Philip Okage, ile Ryan ametoka kubonga juu yake, was shot during the protests against these very killings. We watched a video of an unarmed young man selling masks shot at point blank range by a masked police officer. Poleni kana tumia hii accent kuzokoshua kamjaka fulani ndio kaliandika hii statement. This chilling act captured on video and has caused the present police brutality. Okay, sounding like Miguna. Today, Gabriel Muita Chacha, 34 years old, has been brought to the county referral with life-threatening injuries arising from police beating in Ringiti Island. Damn, kuna mujakani zingine zile sijui. Kuna Ringiti Island iko wapi? Okay, then ikaendelea. Enough is enough. The perpetrators of these extrajudicial killings must face the full force of the law. The Kenya Police Service must carry their own cross. We condemn these atrocities and demand accountability. The immediate prosecution of all officers involved, including those bearing command responsibility. So hii time yote ilikuwa right with ODM. ODM walikuwa pale like raya kao pia wanda iko pitisha samaki. Unatumia fork na samaki bwana. Like hakuna mtu hapa weka fork chini. Leta ugali tunakola. Yeah, wacha tukule na serikali. Tuko ndani ya serikali. Then one statement ikaleta shida. The end of this statement ilikuwa commitment to the 10-point agenda. The ODM-UDA agreement explicitly prohibits extrajudicial killing. We are holding the broad-based government to this commitment. Our support for the broad-based government does not extend to extrajudicial killing and police brutality. We draw the line on extrajudicial executions. Illegal and unconstitutional repression is not part of the agreement. Menika wa Governor Gladys Wanga EGH akaitweet. Then we can only guess what happened baadaye. Mnaka wanasema hira yanaitwa Mbadi kwa pale kwa table inakula ikatoa hiyo nini Magita Ngoge. What is this? Don't you know we are in the government? Someone call that woman. She's crazy. Call her. Then kapigiwa. Hii post ikakuwa pulled down. Even calling out extrajudicial killings has become controversial in ODM. And this is the party that's supposed to be the party of democracy. I'm looking forward to ile siku nitakaa chini. None of these influential ODM people. Really looking forward to it. Because you can't have it both ways. You can't be the party of democracy and also be the party that everyone has to sing the same song. There has to be things that we can disagree on. If everything we have to agree on, then there's a problem. So we have this problem. So in summary, Sakaja must go. We have a governor who amekuwa accused of organizing goons. And one of the things the goons had been told, which, thank God, they did not execute, was they were supposed to dunga 3 women. 3 women could have died. So kulikuwa na hiyo. Alafu unafala iko inaitwa Klinzy Barasa, unatry ku go viral. Klinzy Barasa, I hope, really hope, and I really hope Klinzy Barasa tuongee kidogo. Ulisikia ile kitu ilifanyikia kanyuma. I really hope tapelekwa kwa Diaga. Fukiwa kwa Diaga, I really hope ta go viral. Iko nene.